Okay, this is the list of thousands. Patrick, myself and I, and Thibault's hiding behind a pillar here, are going to talk to you about App Engine and App Engine for Business. Now, when I start these talks, the last two talks I've done, we kicked off into App Engine for Business, and we found out pretty quickly not everyone in the room has used App Engine or knows what it is. So can I get a show of hands? How many people have used App Engine? Okay, so about a third of the room. Would it be useful to see a demonstration of moving through deploying an App Engine app very quickly for folks? Do you want to see actual demo code, put one together? Can I get hands for that, please? I want to target the audience. Okay, so we're going to do a rapid 101 with App Engine, and I'll give you some of that. Then we'll go into App Engine for Business after that. And then I'll get Thibault. Now, this was from the Russian presentation. When we go places, we say, let's find a picture and some quote. It's all dark, you can't see it. It's Russia, it's dark. And so I was looking for pictures to put up here, so I went over to my picture stuff over here, and I've got a demonstration of it here set up, if I can find it. Anyway, I went to go and get my pictures, and oh, here we go. Bear with me. And all I could find was a picture of two men peeing at the Kafka Museum. I thought, well, I guess I'll not use that picture, but I was trying to find it for you. But it's missing now, so I'm going to crack on. I lost my window, sorry. So I'll show you the picture later on. Okay, App Engine for Business, App Engine. Right, cloud computing. We'll kick off here. If you saw the talk this morning, you'll know Simon Wardley was talking about cloud computing not being a technology, it's a phenomenon that's happening. What's happening is computing, just like water and electricity, is becoming something that we can use as a resource. Cloud is not anything magical. Every single resource that we depend on in society eventually goes through a cycle of fire, let's get woods, burn it, cook things on it, turn it into electricity, and then put it into a national grid and make it a commodity. Everything we use as a resource goes through this cycle, and then innovation goes on top of it. So what he was trying to say was computing is moving from the purview of just on your desk. You'll remember Microsoft's mission of a computer on every desk in every home in the 80s, going to data centers and then running your own IT, and then eventually letting go of that, and someone else manages it inside the internet for you. So it's an evolution of computing as a resource, and the people that have done this in the past use these models. Has anybody seen this model before? Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Anyone seen this? Okay, so this is a model that the consultants use and various enterprise people use to explain to the old world how to think of cloud for the new world. They break it down into infrastructure, which is the sort of things that VMware and Amazon provide. I'll give you a computer on demand or some storage on demand from S3. Platform as a service, which is where you see App Engine, so I can build things on this. This is a logical service. Microsoft's Windows Azure service and the Force.com platform that Salesforce is on. They're sort of the classic examples. And then software as a service. So our Google Docs platform, Salesforce, NetSuite, you can read that. They live at the top level. And the idea is you get to write software that's sitting on top of our platform, on top of our infrastructure. But our infrastructure isn't a single data center, it's a planet. It's the global fabric of everything that's Google. So when you use our search engine and you type things in, you're actually launching queries across many data centers and many networks, and they're coming back to your browser. We're giving you the ability to use our infrastructure and our global network to build your software and innovate, just like Simon Wardley says, without worrying about how to run the infrastructure or program it yourself. So We put this slide up to say App Engine is supposed to make things easy to build apps, maintain, and scale, but it's that innovation piece. So what do you get when you start doing App Engine? You get an SDK and the cloud itself, Google's platform. You get our hardware and networking and operating system, and you can run an application runtime for Java applications or Python. So that's, if you favor the scripting side, you can use Python. If you want to use Java, you can use that. A lot of people who like Ruby, for example, run that on the Java runtime. So you're not restricted to Java. You can run various languages and interpreters that run on the JVM on top of it. These are some of the services that we provide for you when you're actually building your application. I can talk about more of these in depth, and you can come and ask me about them later if you like. But you can imagine your software is going to need to use memory caching, data storing, go and fetch me some web addresses, send some email, launch talk queries. The task queue is so you can launch asynchronous jobs. So one of the things that you'll find about App Engine is every task that you do is limited to 30 seconds long. There are quotas over your tasks. If you have anything that's longer, you put it in the task queue, and we run it asynchronously when we find time to do it. So for example, when you store things in our data tier, you're storing it in the technology you might have heard about called Bigtable, which is a distributed database scattered across many nodes. It's not a relational database. It's just like a huge table with many rows, and it's actually implemented across many, many nodes in the massive scale. So when you add things, that's very quick, but when you delete things, it can be very slow. So typically, deletes go into the task queue. And we've got APIs for handling images and what we call a blob store, which is if you have any binary structure that you need to store that we haven't catered for explicitly, you can turn it into bytes and put it in the blob store. And the final thing that I'm illustrating here is the user service. One of the things that Google provides for people is a security and user management model above and beyond things like Amazon provide. So by using your Google ID or your Google App ID or your domain ID, you can sign into applications and manage user security, and it's all seamless. What's more, anything that you write in App Engine is going to work with our Google App APIs. This is the best thing. To get started, it's completely free. You can go out there and use this right now. It doesn't cost you anything. In fact, the #1 case I see is mobile app developers writing the back-end servers. So if you're writing an iPhone app or an Android app or something like that, you want to get going, you don't know the scale of your users, you don't know where they are, you don't know how to buy the IT to support it, you go build the back-end on App Engine. I've seen it several times that people have been rejected, say, from the Apple Store because their app crashed or their infrastructure back-end wasn't available. Or let's say that you put your app out there and you put it in the global store, but you don't know what the audience is, and you suddenly find it's a hit in Japan. How do you put your IT in Japan? When you put an App Engine app into Google's cloud, we service it globally. So when we see the requests for your app come in, we spin it up on our infrastructure globally close to the user that's using it. And we move around according to that. So in the traditional model, you have to buy time and space in a particular data center. In Google's model, we bring it up, service the requests, put it back down. Anyone here familiar with the RESTful programming model? It's a very RESTful idea, the idea that you hit something with a web query, we spin it up, service the request, and put it back down. These are the quotas that you get to start with. The idea is you can get going, innovate, and see if there's demand for your application without paying anything. And then, as you get going, there's some pricing model that helps you pay for more resources. Now, this is the standard App Engine. With App Engine for Business, we'll talk about later, we added some more stuff. The most significant thing is a SQL server. So if you're used to programming in SQL Server, and your applications, you're more comfortable with a relational database, we'll give you that as well. But it costs a bit more. Because when we give you Bigtable, it's built across our infrastructure and it's cheaper for us. So App Engine is not a static project. It isn't frozen. It's not a product in a box that you buy somewhere. It's continually in development. It's changing all the time, and we're adding features all the time. You can read the list here. Probably one of the most significant things that we just added was OpenID support. So you can add the security model in and the bulk loader. But as you can see, we drive the features based on the engagement with you. It's the developer community that we engage with that tell us what features they need next, and so we go implement them. Now, we've been doing this on App Engine. We have feedback hours on IRC. You can tell us what you'd like to see. If you're interested in App Engine for Business, you can join our Trusted Tester program, and we'll take it to a higher level. We'll give you more support. You get to talk to people like me on a daily basis if you need to, if you've got a high-profile business application that needs support, that kind of thing. We can talk about that later. But the basic idea you should get is that if it doesn't have the features you want now, chances are it's going to have them later. And here's some of the things we're talking about. You'll notice there's a very important one there, background servers. I talked about the quota before. You can imagine if you have a significant job that has to service all the time, you've got a high load. What do you do when your job exceeds 30 seconds? Well, you might want a background server running to handle that. And that's a request that we've got. The reason for that is when we service your request and we unfreeze the infrastructure, your application, run it up, service the request, and then freeze it back down, that takes time to spin up the JVM. And we've been asked to reduce that time by having background servers that are already spun up. We're going to have MapReduce. Anybody familiar with what MapReduce is? So MapReduce, there's a few people here. MapReduce is the way that you solve very parallel programs. It's something Google do a lot inside. They take a job and they split the job up into many parts and process it in parallel and roll the results back together. So when you split the job up, it's called mapping to many nodes. You process in parallel, and then you reduce the result set back down again. That's all it is. So if you've got a job that you can parallelize in that way, split it up in that way, like image processing or something, imagine if you could split it out into literally thousands of nodes that run in parallel, process the results, and pull them all back together again immediately. That's what you're seeing when you're doing, have you seen that instant search on Google when you're typing and those results are flying out and they're rolling back and coming back to you? You're launching queries on thousands of machines and they're coming back to you in that sort of time frame. It takes some time to realize the computing power you have at your disposal. You can literally use the whole of Google's infrastructure globally for your tasks for 30 seconds. So if you can split it into parallel, it's actually an awful lot of work you can get done. Sorry. Okay, so before I go any further with App Engine for Business, I'll do the quick demo of how you provision and write an application, okay? It's making me sound like Darth Vader blowing into the microphone. I'm sorry. Luke, I am your father, Patrick. Sorry. Okay, who's used the Eclipse programming environment? I ask these questions because I'm surprised to find all the time that usually it's a very diverse audience we attract, and that's brilliant, but that means I have to fill in for the people that haven't seen it. So the Eclipse environment is open source. You can go out and get it for nothing. It's typically Java programmers use it a lot. There are Python environments and things like that people use, but if you're a Java programmer, you're probably using Eclipse. There's a lot of open source plugins, extensions to the Eclipse language, or the Eclipse shell, that you can add. And that's what we did for Google's products. So up here on the toolbar, you can see that there is some icons. This is Google Web Toolkit. This thing here is a profiler. You get a free profiler so you can study your application. And this is a wizard that creates App Engine applications. Now, what does the jet engine mean? One of my friends in England gave me a hard time recently because he said, I like your logo, but I'm not sure about the Trent 900 on it because of that engine that just exploded on an Airbus. So I thought, oh dear. Anyway, the logo is meant to mean it's an engine running your application, but what this means is you get to run your application locally on a web server while you're developing it on the client. The jet engine symbol there is you deploy it to Google's infrastructure using that wizard. So you develop and debug on your workstation or a server. You can then deploy it up to ours. So what I'm going to do first, I've got one I prepared earlier here in case I didn't have a network, but I think I've got a network. The cloud's not very good when there's no network, but yeah. Oh well. So I'm going to click on the wizard. So for everybody that saw me do that, I'm going to make a new project. So we'll say com Google Prague. How's that? Did I get that right? Yes, okay. I'm going to make a new workspace. I can choose the SDK. Now, we're going to make an application that's also going to include a technology from Google called Google Web Toolkit. That's a UI technology you can go find more about, which helps you rapidly build web applications. I'm just including it in my App Engine app because it lets me build some UI quickly, okay? So it will do all that for me. And I can say, okay, I'd like to do that now, please. I'm going to put that in there. So it's going to create my application here, and you can see it's making a folder called My App. How exciting. Some stuff is coming up down the bottom of the screen here. You can see it says Data Nucleus Enhancer. Don't worry too much about that. Pay no attention to that, really. It's some magic that lets your Java entities get mapped to database queries so that you don't have to worry about it, but any objects you make in Java will be automatically turned into database queries so you can send them back and forth. Okay, so here's my application. I've got my application source code here. It's all sort of a demo shell, and I can say, I'm going to run that, please, as a web application. It's going to run it up. I'm in development mode on this tab here, and it gives me a URL, which is basically a local server. Now, if I run that in Chrome, it will say, you don't have the plugin for debugging this. Are you sure you want to do that? And we don't have a plugin for Chrome yet. It's in development. So I'm going to use Firefox here, which, of course, is going to download 50 updates because I'm on the internet. Okay, just checking my add-ons. Downloading. Patrick, can you do a song? Yeah, that's all right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right. Right, there we go. Ta-da. So it's running on my application. And what it's doing is starting up all the objects that do this, right? So I pop this up. We're going to put a name in. And it's running on my browser. And it will send it to the server. Oh, error contacting server. Lovely. Okay, there we go. Sending the name to the server. Hello, Simon. And that's gone from my web browser to the server running on the machine. Done some stuff with it and thrown it back. Okay, lovely. You've got a nice. So that's it running locally. A round of applause, please. Thank you very much. I'll get my own applause. You see. So now we've done that development mode stuff. What I want to do now is deploy it. So what I'm going to do now instead is I press that wizard thing there. I sign in with my Google ID, and I'm going to call it My App. Now, this is all very good, but you'll notice it says you haven't got an application ID linked to this at this point in time. What does that mean? Well, that means before you make one, you have to go to your App Engine page. Now, it's free to create an App Engine account. You just go look for appengine.google.com, sign in, and we'll give you 10 applications. So I have to say now, oh, I'm going to call this my app, I guess. No, funnily enough, that one's taken. Yeah, let's try Prague. Yes, that one's there. Hooray. Hooray. There we go. So I'm going to create the application. And what you can look at now is we've registered an application, and it creates a bubble, if you like, in Google's infrastructure for an application you make with that name or that moniker. And we give you a dashboard to look at it. So you can go look at this dashboard and say, oh, tell me about my application. And it says, you're an idiot, you haven't uploaded it yet. So I go, oh, okay, fair enough. Right, okay. So I have to go to my project now, and I think what we have to do is say my app Prague like that. Pick my app, that's the one. I have to set the app ID. The app ID is the name that we created on the server. It doesn't have to be the name of your project. It's a unique ID that we create in the domain appspot.com. But you can register your own domain and point it there afterwards. You notice it does version control as well. You can provision different versions of your app, set the default one, and have both of them running at the same time. So you can put a version of your application up there side by side with another one. Deploy button, here we go. How exciting. Right, this is the bit where I ask my colleagues, what's happening now, Patrick? It's deploying up to the cloud, isn't it? It's compiling. Yeah, so this bit here takes about 30 seconds. And what it's doing is compiling every version of your application for every browser possible with the GWT toolkit that you saw me build there. So it says, oh, I need an IE blah version, I need a Chrome version, and this is because it doesn't look the same in each browser. So we have to have cross-compiled versions that get packaged and sent up there. So you can see there's 5 permutations. It's doing a link, and now it's going to shove these different versions up there. Now, this is only going to take this long the first time you do it. Through the magic of incremental linking, you don't have to keep doing this, right? But if I faked it and said, and here's one I did earlier, you wouldn't believe me. So what we're actually doing is sending it up there. What's that saying, Patrick? Oh, sweet, okay. My password's wrong, excellent. See, it's real. That's right, I changed it after someone in Russia tried to break in. I forgot. I'm not making that up. That's right, yeah. We do find, you have to watch it here as well. People set up Wi-Fis that have the same name sometimes. And I haven't seen one today, but that happened to me before. So here we go. Now there's my proof of my incremental linking. See? It was incrementally linking. So now it's deployed. So it's on the internet. So I need you to check, get out your browsers if it's working and say myapprague.appspot.com and see if it works. This is going to be fun, isn't it? Let's refresh the dashboard first. We need to provision it. Do I have a link? No, the link is broken. It's telling me that it isn't loaded. Let's see what we can do. Oh no.
I think you've actually deployed a different project. It was called Simon's project.
Oh yeah, oh, well I've actually got that one up there. That's my backup one in case this one didn't work. No, but I think you're okay on this one. Let's try again. I just want to make sure I'm right. I kind of don't want to let you down here. My applications. Don't use the Russian password. There we go. None deployed. So it should have been my app Prague, and then there's these 2 apps here. So my app Prague, that looks about right to me. Looks about right to me. I might have broken the deployment because I got the password wrong. But this is actually deploying. Fly, fly, be free. So I don't know if I've got network issues, but anyway, if you go up here, you'll see this is what the dashboard looks like while we're provisioning it from the same app I sent up there earlier, so that you could see it running, and it shows you how it's using, how it's consuming CPU time, how many instances are actually running, how many clients are using it. Simon's demo app.appspot.com. And that's what it looks like when it's actually, this is exactly the same code that I deployed and I was running before that you saw running locally. And that's running up in the cloud. So you can build it on your machine and you can push it to the fabric, and this will get deployed globally, and it will be run up anywhere on the planet with the same latency, and you can serve your applications from the back end like this. Yeah, there's a deployment issue there. I've got a broken deployment internal error here. So I think I broke it when I used the wrong password and garbaged it before. So you've seen the actual one deployed, and I can show you the actual running there, so we're okay. So thanks very much for showing me that demo. Anyone got any questions about that?
I have a question, not about demo, but you tell about running locally, and what about running locally MapReduce?
Yeah, you can't run MapReduce locally. Yeah. Well, it would run locally, but you can run it one thing, and then you can MapReduce it down to one. Yeah, it wouldn't work very well. Yeah, so MapReduce is a service that's in the cloud that wouldn't actually work very well if you were to try and run it. Thank you very much. Oh, okay. Would you like a T-shirt instead? Okay, there you go. All right. He's playing clever. Okay. Right, so before I go into App Engine for Business, I want people to feel free to ask me some more questions about this demo, because we've got a sort of, anyone got any more questions about that they want to know about provisioning? Well, it is really running. You're actually seeing that one. What happened is the Eclipse thing got the password wrong and mashed up. So the Simon's project that you see there. Yeah. Yeah. I'd delete the deployment files. I'd do a make clean, if you like, and redeploy it back up. But I'm not sure how much time we have, so I switched to the one I did at the start. Not because that's never happened before, you see.
Not even in Russia?
Yeah. Shh. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I try to have deployed things. Our Wi-Fi network goes up and down really badly as well, so it gets to be a bit funny. So we've got various different things, but that's actually that's exactly the same project running there that I deployed up at the start of the demo to make sure. And you get a console running like this, and it shows you, so if you go to My Applications here, I can see, this is the sort of view you get when people have used it, and you can see the logs for what was going on and the quota details, and you can buy more and things like that. And it gets more advanced for App Engine for Business. So I wanted to show you the real thing of, it's very easy to make an application. You can go away after this and deploy it yourself up to the cloud. It won't cost you anything, and you can innovate on it right now. That is the level that we'd like people to come into the talk at. But we find we haven't done a good enough job of raising the awareness of what you can use right now with App Engine. So we thought we'd change it so that you could see that, including the interesting demo. Okay, so I will go forward with the rest of what you get, the difference with App Engine for Business. if everybody thinks that's okay. Yep. So you've seen that before. I don't know why they do that. Look at that. I think someone spent a lot of time doing that. Like, oh. Is that what you do all day? Yeah, that's Fred, is it? Yeah. We pay him too much. Okay. So this is the thing I talked about before, where your apps are supposed to go on top of our platform, and our platform sits on our infrastructure with App Engine. And underneath that, we've got some infrastructure as a service technologies that you can see here, and I'll be talking about in the next talk, called Google Storage. That's like Amazon storage, but slightly different. That's suspense, so you come back. The prediction API, that we take massive amounts of data, we do map-reduce things with it, and we give you information. So you can take big quantities of data, analyze it, and make decisions. And BigQuery, large-scale query. Your apps go here. Okay, so you see this particular model, which is, there's the Google Apps Marketplace. Who's seen the Google Apps Marketplace? You can go, if you've got Google Apps, that's you register a domain with us. You can say, oh, I'd like a branded domain, simonsdomainthatworks.com, not the broken domain that doesn't work.com. You can get Simon's domain. You can put it on Google Apps. You can get your own branded email, your own docs, Google Docs. You can then buy applications from other ISVs and developers like you, and they run inside your Google Apps environment. So there's a great company called MindMeister, which I use a lot, which they do mind mapping, and the software runs inside the browser, inside your Google Apps domain, and it can run on mobile devices too. And it's fully integrated with the spreadsheet, documents, and the Google Docs platform, and the security model. Now, at the same time, you can run your business applications in that environment and sell them through our App Store. So we have an App Store, just like you'd imagine, that you can put your things in, build them on App Engine. You can actually build them on other things in App Engine for the App Store. But what we're talking about here is App Engine for business. This is businesses that want to run applications themselves and want a pricing model for their own built applications. So when we talked to business customers, they said, this is all very well, and your developers are great, and you're all having fun writing this stuff, but we need a promise that you're not going to keep rebooting the thing because it's a Tuesday, and you thought, well, Simon's demo didn't go very well just then, so he decided to reboot the cloud. They didn't like that, did they? No. So you're not supposed to do that. You'll actually find that if you use the regular App Engine service, we will tell you when we do maintenance, and you get an email that says, hey, we're going to do some maintenance. We're not going to switch off your apps, but we're going to put the databases into read-only mode. So you can read stuff, but you can't commit anything while we're doing some maintenance. Some application developers, that's fine for. Some application developers don't like that at all. They say, my application is completely useless if I can't write. So there are different classes of applications. So they people that like the business service, because they get a higher level of service. We operate and do things behind the scenes so they're not affected by downtime. And we promise that we're up 99.9% of the time with an actual legal agreement. We'll give you credits back. You can go read about the terms of it. It's comparable with Amazon's. And we have premium developer support, which means you get higher levels. For the regular App Engine, we have forums and we have the IRC channels. For the premium developer support, you get a relationship with someone in DevRel. Hosted SQL. A number of people told us, it's great you've got this very large-scale database with lots and lots of columns, but I can't do any joins on it. So if anybody's used gQual, it's like, it is a massive database table, as I talked about. You can do all these operations, but you don't do joins on it. It's not a relational database. It's like a hierarchical database. And some people like programming their apps or porting their apps and doing relational operations. They asked us for a SQL server, So we gave them basically MySQL instances. So along with a SQL Server engine, you get, and here's your MySQL that we sort of bolt on the side so you can use it. And we give you an enterprise console, which is a bit richer than the one that you just saw, with some ways of managing your business applications. Another thing that's really important is the SSL connection. That's more work for us to maintain a persistent, secure tunnel for your application that's encrypted. So we give you the ability to manage encrypted connections, which is obviously important for commerce and that kind of thing. It's secure by default, and you're still only paying for what you use, but the pricing models are different. Here's a picture of the domain console. What I'm going to do is say, if you're interested in following up with the App Engine for Business, reach out to us. You'll see some contact details at the end of the presentation, and we can put you in the Trusted Tester program for App Engine for Business, and you get access to this console and the extra information that you can do here. It's basically for domain management and as an extension, as you can see there, of the existing system. You can read the bullet points. I'll try not to sort of read them out at you, but it allows you to manage billing, essentially, for yourself. So you're running App Engine platform and you're doing the billing model. The standard model of pricing that we use is every app is $8 per user per month, and that is capped at $1,000 per month. So it's that simple. I try to tell people that if you're prototyping and innovating, if this audience wants to go off and play with App Engine, you don't have to pay anything. It's when you've decided to adopt a business model that you'll pass the cost on to your customer and you're asking us for a more reliable service that you then switch to this pricing model. Right? Because your customer is going to say, I now need to up the level of service, and you can charge them for that accordingly. So we're trying to give you both. Yep. Yes. Yeah, we cap it at 1,000. Yep. 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 Well, we'll cap the price at 1,000 per month. No, you can't speak now. See, I got him to get up eventually, didn't I? You have to turn the mute off.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so App Engine for Business is targeted at applications you write inside of a company, inside of an enterprise. So yeah, you could build Facebook for General Electric or for a company, but not Facebook available for everybody for just 1,000
well,
bucks
it's per user, so it'd
Yeah.
be per user of your Facebook. So you'd pay up to 1,000 of every user that was using Facebook. Per month, right? Yeah, that's
So-
what I read you to mean. But perhaps you were trying to imply that 10 million users could use one user account.
So first, it's targeted at applications inside of companies, and then the second aspect of the pricing is that it covers only the web part of it, which is, you could imagine with that pricing model to say, oh, I'm going to create an application with just one user, I'm going to pay Google $8 per month, and I'm going to just compute the 50 million digits of pi in a parallel process using MapReduce and all that. We don't want that to happen either. So for all the asynchronous task queue and MapReduce and all that, you're paying by usage along the old model. But basically for the web part of your application, you're paying $8 per user, and it's capped to $1,000 per app.
This question comes up every time, and ISVs ask if they can be a one-user model. And we basically...
So we don't have a version of App Engine for ISVs right now. What we ISVs is independent software vendors. When you're building a software that you're selling to various companies, like Jérôme Mouton, for example, who was in previous session, Snap Engage, they are a very popular ISV using App Engine. For now, we're telling them, hey, you should just use the App Engine free version. We don't have a SLA yet, but we're working on an offering in there. App Engine for Business is kind of the first offering we have in this area.
Yeah.
And I think you really deserve your T-shirt.
Yeah, I gave him one of those QR things as well. Everybody asks us that because we don't have the ISV pricing yet. So everybody says, can I do ISV pricing as one user, please? And we'll manage the partitioning of the billing on the back end. So I'm used to the question, which is why it's per user. But that's, I guess you'd say you could pretend that we won't know. But if we notice there's a Facebook service with 10 million users and it's logged in as one user, there's a fair use policy, we'll just switch it off, I guess. Or we'll work out a plan with you, because I'm sure there's something we can come to terms with if you have 10 million users and a new Facebook. Yeah, I'm your friend. If you're running it on App Engine, we can work out a deal. Yeah. Sweet. Right. App Engine for Business Support, and then the SLA. Well, this is the service credit comment that I spoke about. I would basically say you get certain quotas of 8 hours of development issues. It's all explained. You basically get a higher level of support, and both on building it and running it and developing it. I talked about this a little bit earlier. Social Walk is another application that's built on App Engine, in which you can see it says share Google Docs. Has anyone heard of Box.net as well? They're an ISV, it's quite popular over on the west coast of the States, where they've been taking application files and extending the traditional Google Docs model so that you can put all of your files and upload them into the cloud and just keep them all there. They seamlessly integrate with the applications, the normal Google Docs platform. How many of you use Google Docs right now? Oh, good, that's excellent. So I find that the collaborative editing that some of you have seen when you're typing and you can see your colleagues typing into the document at the same time, that extends to ISVs as well. I've seen like MindMeister, you're doing the parallel development of the mind mapping, and this is the same. You can see your colleagues editing things, and it's a seamless experience through what we've built and what you choose to build. So we give you the APIs to do that, so that you can receive the notifications from the whole development environment that we get. Federating your on-premises data. So this is, all your data is typically kept behind a firewall, and it's not like the consumer world. If you're in the enterprise space, usually the IT department wants to put a big firewall around everything, and it can't get out. What we do is we give you a tunnel service from our App Engine service through your firewall. You can configure it in your infrastructure, in the company or the business that you work in, to use this special pipe, SSL tunnel, into our infrastructure that will pump the data that you care about into the App Engine for Business framework, and then we will process it and it pushes it back. So it's a virtual way of making the application look like it's connected to your infrastructure. So the applications and the services or the data that you have already running in your business can connect with the App Engine for Business. Amazon have a similar thing for shuttling data, but it's at a lower level. This is a PaaS version. Theirs is an infrastructure platform version, if any of you have used that. This one here just expands on that, tells you how you can actually set up the tunnel, and how the user process authenticates. It's just a set of rules. Okay, so what's coming on the business roadmap? Well, you're going to get telephone support. We talked about hosted SQL, service level agreements, enterprise billing, custom domain. That's what you're getting, and the time frame that they're arriving, which is right in time for this talk, basically. I keep mentioning the word trusted tester. Anybody on a trusted tester program from Google right now? Okay, so only some of you are familiar with that language. I'm sorry if I keep repeating it, I haven't explained it. It's like a private beta program where you work with us, you get access to it. At the moment, it's free pricing to use this within the trusted tester program. So we're not charging for people as we're developing it and refining it and bringing it online. When it goes mainstream, of course, that won't be the case. We'll move to the pricing model. We're launching a developer qualification program for App Engine for Business and App Engine. So if you are looking, or an employer is looking for developers who might be trained in doing this with their enterprise applications, or can you port my new business applications or to App Engine, please? They might look for developers that have a qualification or they know how to do this. So you can get qualified in this. It's not available right now. It's coming online shortly. So keep an eye out for it, but you would learn about it through Trusted Tester as well. But we intend to have that qualification online shortly. Okay, so that's the Twitter hashtag that some of you might have seen for today. The gentleman on the left there is Mr. Patrick Chanezon, who just leaps up when I make a mistake. And that's me on the right. I've asked a demonstration now from our colleague here to show us some of his company's work on the App Engine. So with that, I will say goodbye. Thank you very much for listening to me. Come and find me later on if you'd like to ask more questions. I've got some more of these.
All right. Thank you, Simon. Just a minute to set up. And thank you, Patrick, for giving me the opportunity to present you guys what we've been doing with the Google App Engine for Valio. I had to choose among several applications we've been developing, either in Python or Java, and I finally made my mind on presenting you Valio Market. So, as a reminder of what was said in this morning keynote, Valio went Google 2 years ago, and by that time they needed some more application like an enterprise directory, which my former and current colleagues in the back made for them. And then they chose to go they chose Android for the mobility because it's out of the box integrated with Google Apps. And when I joined the team 9 months ago, they started to have new needs, like a mobile version of this enterprise directory. So we made them their first Android app, and during the development phase, I had to send each new version to 2 managers at Valio for them to test and validate. And that was done via email attachments. So only 2 people was fine, but then came the pilot phase with 100 testers. And as you can imagine, this was definitely not the same managing those 100 emails. And I don't even speak about going to production with more than 2,000 users. So we had to come up with an idea for deploying these applications. And since using a public market, like Android market, was out of the question, we imagined Valio Market with its deployment workflow, which I simplified for you in this slide. So basically, you have between the development phase and the actual production release, you have 2 main phases. The first one is when managers at Valio test and decide if new features just fit their expectations. And once they give the go, that would be the second phase, Valio Market sends the new version to testers. And after a while, if those testers didn't find any blocking issue, Valio Market sends the new application to final users. So as you can see, this is still done using emails, which is definitely not that sexy. So what we're working on now is using cloud-to-device messaging so that Valio Market could directly notify the Android application of a new update, and we'll finally get rid of those ugly emails. So now some of you may be wondering how that can be compared to a market, and the answer to that is that it's still being developed, and we hope to see it become an actual market as soon as possible. But for now, what we're using Valio for is collecting crash logs, Android crash logs. So basically, when the Android app crashes, it sends the Android version, the Android app version, and of course, the crash tag trace back to Valio Market. We also use it for some usage statistics, of which I believe you will see some screenshots a bit later, and for, of course, for release deployments. So what's under the hood of that awesome app? For the client side, we used GUID 2.04, and I'm currently migrating it to GUID 2.1, using the presentation widgets and the MVP framework, which is really, really well done. And concerning the Google App Engine part, I try to ensure that it runs on the latest version of the SDK so that we can use as many available features as possible. And as you can see, we use a lot of them, not all of them, but almost all. And we also use some data APIs, but I think I will detail this a bit more. So the first service we use is the user service. If you use Google Apps accounts or Google accounts to authenticate, you can use it as it is. In other words, in only 3 lines of code, you can get a user object with its email. Or you could imagine a more complex access right management, just like we did. So for instance, our users get access to only certain part of Valio Market, depending on their respective role. Next service is the mail service. We use it to send new release to users, testers, and managers. And we also use it to send crash logs to developers. As you might know, your application, your App Engine application can actually receive emails, and we typically use this for go, no-go instructions. In other words, when a manager receives a new release email, he just has to reply to that email to let Valio Market know of his decision to put it in pilot phase or not. And the manager can actually do exactly the same thing using gtalk, since we've implemented the same feature using XMPP service. And I think we'll be implementing some more new cool features like getting quick stats using gtalk through the XMPP service. Okay, so Memcache, that's my favorite. If I had to summarize it in one sentence, that would be, don't do twice the same thing. In our case, we do some heavy queries to get statistics. That means we have to fetch data out from the data store, then process them, and then send them back to the client. Now imagine a user makes the exact same query for statistics. Would you process the data all again, or are you going to use the same result? Well, the answer to this is pretty obvious. And that's so easy to use that would be a shame not to do it. In only 2 lines of code, you get a Memcache instance, and even better, you put it in your own singleton, MC, in my sample, and you can call it anywhere from your code and put or get data from the Memcache in only 1 line of code. So I do recommend using it. Task queues, another great service. And actually, I think there are some best practices in the Google App Engine documentation where you can see how to use task queues in combination with Memcache to really improve your response times. Task queues, you should use it to do some parallel work or to chunk heavy work in small units. So imagine the client makes a query which involves a lot of backend processing. You could just enqueue 1 or more tasks and just send some needed data back to the client and let the task queues do the job. That's typically what we do when we export data to a Google spreadsheet. Finally, the blob store. For now, our Android packages doesn't weigh more than 100K. So we just store them in the data store as blobs, since the limit is for a blob in the data store is of 1 meg. But when comes the time to actually serve the files, we have to fetch them out from the data store, and this is definitely not that efficient. So we wanted to start using the blob store, and when we first tried, we faced a small issue. That was that it needs enabling billing, and as you might know, I'm working for Valio. So enabling billing means a Google checkout account with an associated credit card. So for individuals, that's just fine. For a company, that can become an issue. So the solution was to start using Google App Engine for Business, which enabled all services and also gave us access to Google App Engine support. Just a word about APIs. So as mentioned, we use document-less APIs and the spreadsheet API to export some data to a Google spreadsheet. And we also use the GWT wrapper of the visualization API to display some charts like those ones. And I think a demo is better than just words. So, well, you know, last week in Munich, I told people I couldn't do this demo because of some confidential data I couldn't show. And, well, I took some time to make you a demo version, and just a sec.
And then his friend did his presentation too long so that he didn't have any time left. I was just saying, you did the demo for us and my presentation ran on a bit, but I appreciate you doing it for us.
Stop. Okay. So, no demo. Too bad. Yeah. I can? Okay, didn't understand. So
if everybody's going to go okay, I have the next talk, so I'm going to let us run a little bit longer, 5 minutes, to see the demo. Okay?
Thank you, Simon.
Okay, thanks.
So here, have a look at here. It's my console as a developer, where I see logs. Basically, it's the date when the crash happened, the phone model, the Android version, and of course the stack trace, which helps me see where the problem comes from. And I also do some stats on those stack traces to know, for example, which Android version it happened on. And for example, just for fun, because it's not related, on which phone model it happened the most. I think usage statistics are a bit or more interesting. So, for example, we can see that we have quite a lot of Nexus ones at Valio. We have some more milestones, but we do have a lot of HTC desires. About Android versions, for example, we have a lot of Android 2.1 and some 2.2, and very few of the other versions. And the most interesting is to see where the application is most used. And I don't know, if you check at Czech Republic, well, not so bad. Germany, yeah, just 1,000 more. And France, well, they cheated actually, because all pilot testers are in France, so they use the application a lot. Well, I think I'm done, and thank you, Simon, for giving me some more time. If you have some questions, if you have some advice, either technical or functional, or if you just want to talk, so feel free to drop by. Thank you.